Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. So my name is Brian Collins, former board member of FinTech Australia. Always love coming to Intersekt. Some of you may know I've recently started a new job. I am now the FinTech BDM at AWS. However, this panel was set up well before that, so just to get some admin out of the way, everything I'm about to say is my own personal opinion, legal if you're watching. There you go. If you have heard me talk, if I have talked to you, if you have listened to the FinTech Australia podcast at all over the past few months, you've heard me talk about supertech or superannuation. In my mind, this is one of the biggest open goal opportunities that is available in finance and in FinTech, and especially in Australia. It is a unique opportunity in the Australian FinTech landscape. It is an industry that is currently worth about $3.4 trillion in assets under management. That is rapidly increasing the $4.4 trillion held by the major banks in the country. While most of us think about super, we think about the product of super. But the real opportunity is the fact that super is more than one product. It's not just our superannuation. It's super, it's retirement. It's legacy planning and passing that on to others. It's also the additional services that are provided, such as insurance. It's paying out to different people. It's every fintech in this room. And there are businesses like Mercer and Iris and Link who have made billions of dollars servicing this industry, but those are now legacy systems. And it gives us a really powerful opportunity. So I wanted to pull this panel together to talk about that opportunity. And I'm very pleased to have this particular panel today. We have a fantastic startup, a fantastic scale-up, and a fantastic industry fund here. And I'm gonna have them quickly introduce themselves, starting with my left, and Christina.
Great, thanks. It's awesome to be here. I'm Christina Hobbs. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Verve Super. And Verve Super started in early 2019 as a superannuation fund tailored for women. We had three core, differentiating factors to us, but really the core one was that we saw this powerful opportunity to partner with our members for life on their retirement building journeys and to really be a financial partner for life. So our real focus was how do we package a whole lot of great general advice and community using superannuation really as a business model to provide that. So today, although we feel much larger for us, we're still a tiny little drop in the ocean compared to some of the much larger players like Hester. But I think that's really interesting for today's conversation because you'll be able to see the challenges and the opportunities at both ends of the spectrum there.
Before we go to Stephen, the question I forgot to ask that I want to hear from each of you as well, the biggest opportunity that you currently see in the super space?
I'll sort of be a little bit controversial potentially because I don't think it's an area where the regulator particularly wants us to go. But I think looking at general advice and how we can provide tech around general advice is going to be a really interesting focus area.
I love it. Stephen.
Hi, thanks for having me. I love what Verve Super's doing. The startup super space is really, really interesting. So I'm from Hester. We are... I suppose one of the large super funds you're talking about. We've got about $68 billion under management. It's pretty big. Well, we only just sort of, depending how you cut it, we're somewhere between 10th and 12th in terms of size. We have 950,000 members. The majority of them are in health and community services. So we were set up for nurses, midwives, aged care workers, early childhood educators, and community service workers. So it's a very easy organisation to get up in the morning and work for. You know, if you meet any of our members on the weekend, it is usually you at your most vulnerable. So it's a wonderful cause for that respect. When we're thinking about this space, about 5 or 6 years ago, it's interesting actually being 10th that we need to figure out how to stay competitive with the so-called mega funds. They're 3 to 4 times our size. At the moment, we're more efficient than they are in admin space. They're more efficient in the investment space. And we need to make sure they don't get away from us. So about 5 or 6 years ago, we invested in data integration, APIs. We said that our future is as an ecosystem. And that includes, big time, tapping into new thinking, new tech, and figuring out what's the best of breed sort of ecosystem. Answer your question about the biggest opportunity. Look, I think you sort of flagged it a little bit. It's the decumulation side of superannuation, in my view. Accumulation there's certainly opportunities, especially in the operating model ecosystem, You're seeing a little bit of that. We've had Ignition Wealth work with us. We're working with Grow at Mercy Super. Some interesting opportunities in the operating model space in accumulation, but in decumulation, you've got a much more transactional relationship with the member, and they need to do more stuff. And frankly, we're not set up for that, so we need to partner with people who are thinking deeply about it.
So we've got general advice, we've got decumulate. I can't even say that word. But we're going to go...
Retirement.
Decumulate. No, not going to happen. We're going to go to Trenna Probert next. Trenna, who are you? What is Super Fierce? And what do you see as the biggest opportunity in this space?
Hi, everybody. I actually tried to get Brian to serve drinks in here this afternoon because I was pretty sure we wouldn't get anybody here, so thanks for coming to talk about super with us. And I also want to clear up the fact that I was not the tipsy nerd talking about super last night at dinner. Pretty sure somebody else on the panel was that one. So I'm Trenna Probert, and I am the founder and CEO of SuperFierce. We have built a scalable advice platform which is designed to help close the $30 trillion global gender wealth gap, starting with the 47% gender retirement gap here in Australia. It's important to call out that whilst we focus on women first, we are indeed for everyone. So feel free to come on our platform and check it out. It's not a very well kept secret that about 80% of financial decisions in households are made by women, and that's why we have 25% of our customers are men, I suspect. So we don't even have to market to you, and you still come on over. But we are focused on trying to bring transparency to what has been a very complex and largely opaque industry. And we do that because we know how important superannuation is as a financial asset, not just for individuals and consumers, but also for us as a nation, and something that I'm sure we're all very proud of. Strangely to me, I never expected to find myself working in super, to be clear. But is that, we are well regarded all around the world for having one of the most advanced and sophisticated systems in the world. So that's why it's pretty awesome that we're sitting here working out how we can do it even better. And that's really what we're all here to do. And I think Brian's done a great job in crafting the panel, as you say, from a little startup, nibbling away at the edges of things. Christina and her team have been doing a great job of scaling up. And then, of course, Hester, despite only being 10th on the list, is pretty big. So in terms of the opportunity, I think they're vast. And it's why I'm excited that we're having this conversation, because the use of technology is not just around efficiencies at the edges, although we all agree that we could do with some better systems behind the scenes in the superannuation industry to make it more effective and more efficient. What I'm excited about is that I actually completely agree with the decumulation, and we've got a real focus on building out support for people in that retirement income pillar. So we should definitely chat about that later. But where I see the real opportunity leveraging technology is to actually engage people earlier in life and through life, so that they can understand the impact that this can have on their own lives, but then also within communities. And everybody benefits, right? When everybody's doing better, we're all taxpayers. So even if you're a cynical bastard, we should all be motivated to improve this, because ultimately we all benefit.
So we've talked about a couple of different opportunities there. There's one opportunity we all agreed ahead of time that we wanted to talk about and kind of share. So there's been a lot of talk around CDR around the entire conference. And we've talked about CDR, and if you've looked at the timeline online, you can see that it's telcos currently, it's energy next, and then there's a variety of other spaces that it could go. It is becoming more and more clear that superannuation is either going to be next or soon to be next. CDR offers a very interesting opportunity, and just one of those opportunities is, and many people may not know this, but many super funds don't actually know who their members are. They're paid by their employers, and they know who the employer is, but they don't actually know who the individual member is. And having CDR actually implemented into a system like superannuation as a whole industry can very quickly parse and fix that. I'd love to hear from each of you. What is one of the areas around, where do you think CDR plays potentially the biggest disruption area? Or, so you have a choice here, or where do you think that it's going to need the most help to be successful in the industry? And I'm going to completely open it up. I'm not going to call on anybody. I love an awkward silence.
I can go first. I think for me, I can sort of really immediately see some of the potential opportunities if you take the lens of a superannuation fund really being a retirement partner for life for your members. So I think some of the very immediate things is being able to see what's going on within our members' financial lives that could indicate changes or suggestions that could make their life better from a superannuation perspective. So you can see things like, for instance, when they've been stopped being paid super, or if they've got changes of employment status, all those kind of changes that are happening that could then trigger events for us to actually be able to engage with our members to make certain that they're thinking about the right things in terms of their superannuation. There's a number of areas, again, as they're approaching retirement, being able to interact and engage and make certain that they're looking at the right products. I think, as it was alluded to earlier, the interaction of superannuation with other products. So particularly on the insurance side, there's a real role here that when we have more transparency around what's happening in people's financial lives, that we can also potentially support them if factors are changing that could mean that their circumstances are changing, that could interact with ensuring they've got appropriate insurances. So I think that there's some really good quick wins that could happen in terms of being able to have a more open and accessible system to see what's going on. And then I think there's just a huge explosion of opportunity in terms of how we could use this to really better engage members and ensure that we're really partnering with them throughout their life cycle. So I definitely think for superannuation there's big opportunity.
I just know Brian didn't want to go one, All right, I'll have a go. I think, that's spot on. There's a lot of that sort of live data that would be incredibly useful. I'm probably a little cynical on some of the views, only because I remember looking at Mint in 2007, and that was the first real breakthrough aggregator in the finance space worldwide, and they were going to take over the world. I was at CBA at the time, and I think it's fair to say some of the strategic folk there were scared to death. Turned out it was really quite hard to do, right? And the main reason it was hard to do was actually the engagement of the customers, because they had to plug it all in. They had to find the provider and put it together. CDR makes that 1,000 times easier. So once again, I'll come back in with an optimist's hat on and say, surely now it can work. But I still think it's got a little bit of clearing. Just some people will go down the easiest path, right? The most frictionless path. And I think CDR's got a little bit to go. I love actually that they're going a little more broadly than just the dollars, because I think people will find use for it in their daily lives. And then banking and super can come in and join that. Super's interesting, the way that they talked a lot about open banking was how people could switch. Super, you say you're switching, 3 days later it's gone, right? It's the most...
Not always.
Well, yeah, so maybe not.
3 days and it's gone.
It may be gone in 3 days, but often doesn't turn up where it should be for months. But that's a different conversation.
I have no experience of that, so that's fine.
Okay, you're right, you don't.
But I was going to say in decumulation space, I'm liking CDR, because again you're getting into the way people spend their money. You have a reason to have an aggregated view and a predictive, early warning system about whether you've got enough to pay the energy bill, right? And I think that gets really quite exciting.
I probably have a reasonably unsophisticated perspective on this, and it concerns me that everybody's nodding, but probably a reasonably unsophisticated perspective on this, which is that, so with data just as a foundation premise, so long as we're using it for good, not evil, that's an important starting point. And I've already shared that my view is that things will work much better within most aspects of financial services, including superannuation, where we have greater transparency. right? And so that's really, for me, what this is about. We're all here to help. You're here to help your members, and I'm here to help consumers and to, stand up to my best interests, duty, obligations, and so on, right? So we can do that better if we understand our customers, but they need to trust us. They need to trust that we're going to use it for good, not evil. And I think that, I actually think there's just a massive opportunity for the industry more broadly to collaborate closely to make positive change.
So we've talked a bit about kind of general pieces. I want to dive deep into a couple of the products that we haven't talked on. We've talked a lot about super, which again is where most people think of. We pay into your super, money's paid for you into your super, and then you probably don't think about it that much. But the truth is that there's a bunch of other products out there, especially, and the one I want to focus on first is retirement. Retirement is a product that exists in almost every super fund. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe both of the funds that are up here have retirement products in their suite. But oftentimes members aren't even aware that that retirement product exists inside of the same company, or moving them over can be difficult. There's a variety of challenges. So Stephen and Christina, I want to hear from you guys around what are some of the areas that you see for opportunity on the retirement side of the product specifically?
I might actually throw that one over because we actually don't have a retirement product, and we've actually been suggesting to some of our members to go to HESTA when they're retiring out. So we haven't got too many because most of our members are around the age of 30, but yeah, I'll hand that one over.
Thank you.
I think there's been about 4, so I'm sure it's
This
not
is business being done on the panel, folks.
it's not a huge amount, but...
Oh, no, I think, sorry. So what's really interesting about engaging in super is that you'll find in about 15 years, all of a sudden your engagement peaks because people start thinking about it at around 45. Honestly, the stats, the research on this is remarkable. I think, perhaps ironically, since the Royal Commission, engagement has been on a upward curve. We have more engagement about everything, from underwritten insurance to people logging in just to check their balance. And I think, so that's on the up, but by no means is that, I think, commensurate with how important your retirement savings are. However, from about the age of 45, people find their way to their super and start to look for help. And I think, to go back to Christina's first point about advice, that's when they start to get scared to death, right? And what's the right number? What do I need to do? How do I make sure I'm not the only idiot that does the wrong thing? And that gets really, really tricky. So I think the opportunity about engaging is actually to give members confidence, and I think that starts from the day they join, as young as possible, making sure that you talk to them in a way that they understand. Our website, the most complaints I get about our secure website is from my bloody investment team, right? Because they want it to be more sophisticated, more complex, and we're dealing with nurses, midwives, aged care workers who are incredibly clever professionals, but they don't think about this stuff. So how you can translate it to something, and to your point, they are doing the finances. They are planning ahead. If we can help them do
and
the
they're better at it than they realise
they are. They really are. So getting that confidence and engaging with them in their language, that's how you prep them.
I think the education piece comes across a lot of what we're talking about. There was another reason that I really want to make sure this panel was the panel that we had for this, because as has already been mentioned, Trena and Super Fierce, very clear focus on women and enabling women through a variety of different ways. HESTA has a majority women membership group. Of course, Verve has been marketed as a female super fund. You were sharing with me a little bit earlier some of the specific kind of users and members that you guys have, and they're not always who you initially thought. You have a lot of people who've come over. I shared the story of my partner who has come onto Verve as a migrant who came over and came to Verve first. Do you want to talk a little bit about, you guys have a younger member base than most other funds. What are some of the things that you're seeing with your members, and what do they care about?
Yeah, so I think something that's important from us is we really took the perspective of how do we really support people in their financial journeys throughout their lives, and then let's use superannuation as a product or a business model to support this. And so that's been really interesting for us, and to see, I guess, who's resonating with that message. And For us, it's been a lot of people around the age of 30, and we see, two peak engagement times in superannuation. One is around the age of 30, when people are suddenly like, I need to consolidate my accounts, I'm having a baby, I'm starting a new job, these life events. And then it's as they get older and they're thinking through to retirement. It's that first group that we're really attracting, and we're attracting them in a way they're just thinking about their finances. And it's been really hard for people to go. I guess what we identified was when people want to make actions on their finances, and there's a whole lot of general advice available in written format, but particularly we know with women, but a lot of other people as well in the market, is that they want somebody or a face to that. They know, but they actually want someone to tell them that what they know is right before they take action. So a big part of what we were trying to do is create this general advice environment where we can support people to take actions in a whole lot of way around their finances. And so, what we've realised is that the people that are attracted to that is really quite diverse, but very specific. It's people who know they're not on track with their finances. It's people that are young and starting out and having these moments, and they're waking up. And then it's also a lot of migrants who've come to the country and they don't actually know what superannuation is, and so they're engaging with us in that way.
And this is where I think that user group is super important, because that particular group that you've just talked about there, this is going to be for a long time their largest asset class when we think about it. So being able to protect that and manage that is really important. So Trenna, that takes me over to you. With Super Fierce, you guys have started with a super comparison tool, but you have a much larger vision for how you want to be supporting almost not specifically this group, but especially women. There are men who use it. I'm one of them. But can you talk a little bit about...
Can you tell them how much money we saved you? Okay, maybe not today. Sorry, go on. What was the question?
$500,000. So what... can you tell us a little bit more about, so you're starting with this one product, but you have this large vision for where you want to be able to support these folks through their entire journey with this as an asset class. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to touch on what both Christina and Stephen said as well, which is, and I mean, we're a startup, so we're still learning as well. And we're often surprised as well, Christina, who we see engaging in different ways and more deeply. And it's a pretty exciting journey learning about the market in that way. But between the ages of 30 and 40, that's where the biggest life events typically happen as an average, for women in particular. So, and, women, guys, you're awesome, but you kind of have a slightly more homogenous earning trajectory in your life, and women chart a much more different course. So those years are very important, what they do. So I'm thrilled that women are engaging with you at that time, Christina, because obviously the magic of compounding is a really beautiful thing. The earlier you start, the better. But also from 45 is really fascinating too. And I have to do a plug. It's nearly my birthday. I'll be 50. You're all invited. And so I was recently invited to speak at a conference for women 50 and older. And it was fascinating to me, and I thought nobody would be interested in me because, they were talking about cool stuff there, makeup, fashion, menopause. No, that wasn't the cool part. But, I was surprised how engaged people were, and the people who were coming up to me afterwards to ask questions about what they could be doing. And I've actually got some pretty horrifying stories, but we don't have time to do that. But going back to the retirement income piece and the strategies for those later years is absolutely critical. So at the moment we are building out, we were tempted to go wider, but decided that we wouldn't go and fight in the bloodied waters with everybody else in financial education for a while. And so we've decided to go just much deeper into the super space. And because we're pretty good at technology, so what we're now doing is we're enabling our customers to be able to dynamically model the impact of different types of contributions, to be able to do that in the context of building a fierce life plan or a plan for their life, really being able to map that and bring relevance to why you care about your super. Being able to model the impact of time out of the workforce, critical for women in particular, but for everybody now, with an aging workforce, with sabbaticals, career changes, all of these things. being able to see that. Giving people the opportunity to learn about investing inside their investment portfolio. And we think general advice is great. We would have loved to have stayed there longer because it's much less complicated. But ultimately, we made the decision to take that step to build a full scalable advice platform, because whilst education is terrific and tools are wonderful, there are times where people need more. And that's advice. So, we're deepening in there. We've got some other pretty cool things going on, but I don't want to give anything away too quickly right here. But ultimately, we will step into the other pillars of wealth as well. And particularly for women, we know that taking a very different approach than has been done in traditional financial services is very important, because our earning trajectory is so fundamentally different. And we are indeed independent and unique, just like all of you, but that's why we need something that really reflects the different life paths of women.
I think, for all of you here who are, have a fintech idea trying to find its way into super, that's a pretty good model, right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a very lovely club up here. No, but so for Hester, 80% of our members are female. They're out of the workforce on average 6 years of their career. They come back in a contract and a casual capacity. It affects the way that we engage with them. It affects the design of our insurance for them. All of that sort of stuff, and having an opportunity to engage outside of the service providers, that separation is incredibly useful. But I think what's really interesting in fintech world, the fintech world we live in now, is actually how you can increasingly connect in, either through CDR or just engagement. And, it's actually, super is a really interesting collaborative space, because it's all about the best interest of the member. Right? I truly believe that. I truly believe most of the industry feels that way.
I agree.
And they're looking for people to find the right help for what they need.
Look, and we've had a really vibrant, positive example of that recently when we released the Fierce Performers Index into market. And in all honesty, we were really frightened of you guys for a long time. We're like, don't notice what we're doing over here, because, we're a startup, and there's a lot of power in the superannuation industry. I know you're going to wrap me up, but I'm just going to keep going for a minute, sorry. But what's really cool that came out of that was, we had lots of super funds reaching out to us and saying, hey, that's really awesome. You've worked out how to explain something that we've been trying to explain to our members for years. Can you help us? And then we've had others who didn't make it on to the Fierce Performers Index reaching out and saying, hey, you clearly know a bit about this. Can you help us to work out what we need to do under the bonnet to do better? And I love that. I think that's really cool. And I'm only going to throw one little thing in here, which is around engagement, because it's really hard to get people to pay attention to their super. That's what Verve has done incredibly well. And so, I really want you all to go to growgold.com.au, go and check out our really cool gangster granny rap video, and play a game called Blingo, which we've created. Now, it's still a little bit buggy, so be kind to us, but it's an example of taking a different approach to engagement. So what we've done is we've worked out that we kept saying to people, okay, cool, you're on track to retire with this much, and they're going, yeah, but is it enough? And we're like, good question. So now this game actually lets people play a game to work out what sort of life do they want to have, and then we show them how much it's going to cost to have it, and then we show them if they're on track to be able to do that, and then how they can close that gap.
So sadly, we're going to have to...
Shameless plug.
Sadly, we're going to have to wrap on that. But just to quickly kind of wrap up where we're at, the whole goal of this session, what I was hoping we get and what I think we've gotten out of is, as I said at the beginning, I just want to reiterate, superannuation is a huge open goal opportunity for the fintech space. It touches every single part of what's been talked about at this conference. And if nothing else, I hope that we've slightly opened your mind on the possibilities there. And with that, I'd like to thank my fantastic panel. Please give it up for Trina, Stephen, and Christina.
And Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And for Brian.